Good morning, everyone. For those joining virtual, I have started the recording and the transcript. If you would like to test out your camera or your microphone, this will be a great time to do so before our opening remarks begin around 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the 2024 Community Engagement Forum on Aging Issues. It's so good to see all of you here this morning in person, and I know that we have a group over at Culpeper Garden who's joining us, as well as a group online. So welcome to everyone. I'm so glad that you're here this morning. It is a little bit chilly outside, so I can't think of a better thing to do than come inside and just be part of this group. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Helen King, and I have the privilege of serving as your Agency on Aging Director. I'd also like to welcome Maimunabad Duckenfield, who is the Division Director for our Aging and Disability Services. Thank you for joining us today. Also for our commissioners who are here, several of them in the room and a few of them online and over at Culpeper Garden. So the Commission on Aging members that are here, also thank you for being here and welcome. So this is an event that we do every year. Whether it's your first time at this event or if you're a seasoned veteran, I am glad that you're here and I'm looking forward to your participation today. At this event each year, we ask the question, what matters most to you as you think about growing older? Something each and every one of us is doing every day. Your voice matters to us and we are very grateful that you're here. Our theme this year is a roadmap to age-friendly Arlington. And you will hear a lot this morning about livable communities and the efforts by our Commission on Aging, guided by the Age-Friendly Task Force, to advance Arlington's status as a community that is vibrant and fulfilling for all ages. And can I have the next slide, please? We are coming together at an exciting time. The Commission on Aging and the Age-Friendly Task Force completed their first 5-year cycle of Age-Friendly Arlington in 2023. They submitted their report, and now they're hard at work on the goals and objectives for our next 5-year plan. You will hear today where they are headed, and then have the opportunity to provide input on what matters to you. Our keynote speaker this morning is Dr. Rodney Harrell from AARP, who will provide us with information about livable communities, as well as other information that makes a community age-friendly. Then we will hear from Kathy Cameron, Vice Chair of the Commission on Aging and Co-Chair of our Age-Friendly Task Force, who will give us more information on the Age-Friendly Arlington Initiative. Armed with this information, we will then split up into smaller groups for discussion on how to make Arlington an even more age-friendly community. Next slide, please. Okay, just a few housekeeping items before we get started. So for those of you joining online, please feel free to post any questions you have in the chat, or you can raise your hand and one of our facilitators will recognize you and is able to unmute you. Restrooms are down the hall and then to the left. If you see the vending machines, you're heading in the right direction and you're just in that area there. We have a resource fair that it was available at the beginning and will be available again after we're done around noon today. And so if you didn't get a chance to visit it yet, don't worry, there'll still be time. I would like to take a moment to highlight one opportunity that is a direct result of Age-Friendly Initiative, and that is our new Community Ambassador Program, powered by volunteers. The Community Ambassador Program is a partnership between Arlington County, Marymount University, and Arlington Neighborhood Village. The program is designed to improve communication and to help older adults be aware of and navigate access to programs, services, and assistance available in Arlington. While Arlington County has an extensive array of valuable information and support available to older adults, many do not know about the resources or don't know how to access them, particularly those without internet access, who are uncomfortable with technology or speak English as a second language. So Arlington Neighborhood Village and the Ambassador Group is recruiting volunteers from across the county, from all communities and neighborhoods. So if you're interested in learning more about this opportunity, please see the folks at the Arlington Neighborhood Village resource table. And if you're attending virtually but would like more information, please email the Agency on Aging and we'll be happy to connect you with Arlington Neighborhood Village for more information. Our food this morning smells delicious. I haven't tried any yet, but it looks really great. It was provided by Kitchen of Purpose, and maybe some of you knew La Cocina before they changed their name. They're now Kitchen of Purpose, and they're an Arlington-based not-for-profit with a mission to create opportunities for social and economic change through feeding, educating, and empowering the minds of the community. So we're very grateful to them for helping us out today. And finally, I hope that you will let us know how we did today. When you got your agenda, you should have also been handed a survey. And I would appreciate if at some point during the day you would complete the survey. It's just a few short questions and turn it in before you leave. We take your inputs very seriously and we'll look to make changes next year. I will also be emailing the event out to everybody who registered. So if you're attending online, be on the lookout for that email. And then one last item. Over the past couple of years, I've been asked if the event was recorded for those individuals who just couldn't make it for some reason. And so I'm happy to say that we are recording the event this year. We haven't been able to for the last couple of years. And then as soon as that link is available, we'll be providing that to you on request. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so just to set the stage a little bit before we get into our main speakers, it's no secret the percentage of older adults in our country is increasing. And it's projected that by 2034, the percentage of the population that is 65 plus will exceed the percentage of the population that is under 18. Next slide, please. Across Virginia, the percentage of the population that is 60 plus already exceeds 20%. And in some localities, it actually exceeds 30%. So the challenge that we face as communities, as well as at the Agency on Aging, is how do we make our communities more livable for older adults and ultimately then more livable for everyone. Next slide, please. So I said we ask year over year what matters most. And this slide here is a snapshot of what mattered most last year. These were the responses that we received from you in the event last year. Top is always it has been for the last couple of years is housing. Housing affordability, aging in place, and having options to that you can maybe downsize to or do some renovations to your home. Those were top of the list last year. Second was healthcare, and that was a new addition to the list last year. The third, transportation that is safe and accessible, along with options for getting around. The fourth was social connections, technology literacy being one of the issues that matters, and then also consistent platforms for county services and improving the acoustics in the building so individuals who are hard of hearing can actually participate in the meetings. And then finally, mobility, ensuring that everyone is able to get around safely, whether you're in a car or if you're walking down the sidewalks or any other modes of transportation. Okay, and then my last slide, if you can move to the next one, is just simply a view of, just simply a view from the last 7 years of how these answers have been or what the top categories have been. And for the last 5 years, housing has been the top. So anyway, without further ado, I would like to welcome William Way to the podium. He is the chair this year of our Commission on Aging, and he'd like to offer a few words and then introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Helen. Thank you to our great county staff for making this happen. What a great place, right? So thank you all for being here today, and also thank you for being great citizens. So at this time, I'd like to ask that you shake hands with the folks on your left and right to get to know everyone in the community. Sorry? I think this is the best one. All right. Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Hope you had a chance to meet your neighbors, because that's the best part. Next, I'd like to ask our commissioners, to stand up so that folks can approach you and bring attention any issues that they have to you. So please stand up, commissioners. So these are our commissioners. And of course, we have lots of former commissioners, so please reach out to them. This is our engagement forum, so we want to hear from you and see what your interests are and concerns so that we could do something about it. So really appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the formal part. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of our community, I extend a warm greeting to each one of you as chair of the Arlington's Commission on Aging. Welcome to the 2024 Community Engagement Forum, our premier event to reach out to you because your concerns and interests are what is important to us so that we can do something about it. We don't want to just sit here in our meetings. We need what your concerns are. And as Helen noted, we take those seriously and work on them. Your presence here today signifies your commitment to championing essential causes such as affordable housing, accessible transportation, preventive health care, affordable long-term care, equity, and inclusion. Throughout history, Americans have united to advocate for the greater good within their communities. Echoing the sentiments of Alexis de Tocqueville on freedom of association and democracy in America. So I'm saying you're great citizens for being here today. Moreover, we unite against those threats against our Medicare, Social Security. While we are not advocating for any hostility, I don't see anyone jumping up and down and saying, lock them up or anything like that. So, but we stand resolute, right? We stand resolute in defending what is right, what rightfully belongs to us, what we paid for. We're law-abiding citizens, yet we refuse to stand idly by as others seek to deprive us of our entitlements. So you're strong and smart citizens for being here. At the Commission on Aging, we rely on your energy and intellect, your firsthand experiences, equip you with valuable insights and solutions. You know your situation best. That's why you can tell us, what the best way forward is. I mean, we can't sit there in our committee room and because we're not where you are. So we need to find out what concerns you and what the best solutions are. You've chosen to be here because you're driven to address challenges head on. We refuse to yield to opposition, recognizing that our unity empowers us beyond measure. So if we all stick together, no one can stop us. Thank you for being here and gracing us with your presence today. Together, let us forge ahead toward a brighter future. Next, I want to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Rodney Harrell of the AARP. I'm sure all of us have heard about AARP. Hopefully you've joined. I'm not advocating, or I don't get any commissions, but anyway, Dr. Harrell, we are honored to have you with us today. Dr. Harrell is the Vice President of AARP. He's an expert in housing, transportation, and livable communities, which is related to age-friendly Arlington, which I hope you all have taken a look at. And we are working on our next 5-year plan. And as head of AARP's Public Policy Institute, Dr. Harrell leads experts in long-term care and family caregiving. He's had a distinguished career. He has a PhD from University of Maryland, as well as undergraduate and master's degrees from Howard University and Princeton University. He is also a trustee of the National Building Museum and an immediate past chair of the board of the University of Maryland School of Architecture and Planning. I don't know how he makes the time to be here, but sir, good morning, and thank you for being here today, Dr.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here this morning. You know, 24 hours ago, I was on vacation and I couldn't wait to get back. If I had to come back, it's wonderful to be here. For frankly, one of the shortest trips I get to make. I go across the country all the time and talk about the local communities. And it's great to be here back at home. And it's really great to be part of this effort to reinvigorate and think about the next 5 years for Arlington County. So what I want to do is take a few minutes to talk to you all about what I call our approach for today, tomorrow, livability for all ages. Because I want to start with this concept. We looked at the last 7 years. Helen showed us kind of what people have been thinking about, the past plan that we've had. But the whole process, the process of planning is focused on looking at what we have and planning for that future. And that's what we're here to do today. And that's what I want to celebrate. So on the next slide, you'll see something that was referenced. You saw the census graph earlier, that by 2034, we'll have more people over the age of 65 than under 18 for the period. What I want to add to that, though, is that this is the first time in US history. And so when we think about this, it's a fundamental shift. And it's been happening for a while. You know, the stats, there's 10,000 people turning 65 every day. And there's many other stats that tell you about America aging. But what that doesn't take into account is the fact that for hundreds of years, we built communities, including this one, with the foundational understanding that there aren't that many older adults here. So that means that we can get by with shortcuts and not think about aging, not incorporate aging in what we're doing. And so the job that we have through the work that we're doing to create more age-friendly communities is to help to address that future, right? The future is a future of people of all ages in every community. And we saw some of those stats earlier. On this next slide, you'll see that another point about the number of households across the country, 11 million or so, that are housing cost burdened. And I see that housing cost was the #1 issue for the last several years here, and that's not surprising. It's certainly a challenge across the country, and it's gotten more and more important over time. And so we're going to continue to see these trends happen. Housing's not getting any cheaper, but we'll talk a little bit later about some of the options we can do and create to make more housing and to really help to address this issue. But certainly, this is a fundamental piece of the puzzle for us that we're certainly burdened by those housing costs. On the next slide, you'll see that 1/3 of Americans don't drive. And so that's including, you know, about 20% of people age 65 and older. Many of those persons are persons with disabilities or low income. Some are children who are not old enough to drive, but others by choice. And the idea that in many communities we're forced to drive to get to where we need is a limiter. And so again, you'll hear me say this word a few times, options. Then the more we can do to create transportation options that give people choices on how to get around, helps to keep them connected to their communities, their families, the things they need and the like. So we have to pay attention to that as well. And I saw that health was one of the highest, sir.
I am one of those. I'm not driving because I'm not capable of driving. I had a brain surgery done. My neurologist is still not letting me say that you are capable of driving. She says you are not going to drive for a while because we don't see your memory coming back and remembering and all of those things. And we would like you to keep walking rather than driving. I appreciate that because that's giving me a lot of exercise. I walk 10,000 steps every day.
That's great. Our communities need to support people who want to walk the things nearby. I mean, we need to have the options. You never know when you might have a health incident that might prevent you from driving. You might plan your whole life around it. And so that's a perfect example of two things for me. One, the need to have options for how we get around if you're not driving, but also two, how important it is to have walkable communities and places that are safe and you're able to walk the things you need nearby. Just jumping to that next slide and go back to the health implications of the aging of America here. You know, 1/3 of Americans who are age 75 and older aren't leaving their homes on a given day. So social isolation is a huge thing. We did a study a few years ago before COVID that showed that social isolation costs the Medicare program almost $6 billion, I think it's $5.7 billion every year. So that's not only is it bad for individuals, but also if there's a bottom line, bad for society, bad for our nation. This medical appointments cost the healthcare sector about $150 billion. And the last time they measured this, about 6 million people delayed medical care because they didn't have access to transportation. So again, the example we just chatted about are ones of how this lack of connection to our communities aren't built for us to have the options we need, can have those problems. And then in the last year, last couple of years, we had COVID. The next slide here. And over 166,000 people died of COVID in nursing homes, 180 or so if you count staff. And that's a tragedy in and of itself. But there's a couple of things here that it's shown, that COVID's shown a light on for me. One is that everyone got a taste of that social isolation during that time. So that was a time when people understood more so some of the issues that we faced with the limited options in housing, and maybe our housing didn't quite meet our needs and the like. But specifically to this nursing home issue, that many of those people thought for the first time kind of the horrible downside and the ultimate downside of not having enough housing options. Lack of housing options is the number one thing that prevents people from being able to leave a nursing home. If you don't have a home that's affordable, that's safe for you to be in, they can't let you out of there. And so the 166,000 families that understood, perhaps for some for the first time, how crucial having that housing option is. And since that time, the silver lining is there's been much more interest amongst local officials, family members, caregivers, and others about thinking proactively for the future about what can we do? Can we build an accessory dwelling unit or some option to help my mother, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my family member to stay with me? So it's a terrible tragedy, but again, it draws light on the importance of having those housing options. So if we go to this next slide here, we'll just kind of sum up some of these things that we've got more households living alone, more people living alone, I should say, especially the aging population. That's a trend that we've seen over the last few years. We've got more multi-generational housing, where about 64 million of us live in a household with 2 or more generations. So again, thinking about multiple generations in one home, we're getting more and more racially and ethnically diverse, particularly amongst the aging population. And of course, the shrinking middle class is something that many are aware of. So lots of things changing is the point here. And the idea that we have to think about how these changes are evolving into the future. Now at ARP, one of the key things we do is surveying folks is this next one, that nearly 8 out of 10 people say that they want to stay in their homes and communities as they age. On the next slide here. Nearly 8 out of 10 of people 50 and older, and nearly 9 out of 10 of those 65 and older say the same thing. So we've got a situation where we've got some of these shortcomings people are talking about. The housing isn't affordable. There's studying by the Harvard Joint Center that between 1% and 5% of homes have the features that people need as they're aging. So homes aren't necessarily built with the features that people need. There's not enough transportation options, especially for folks that don't drive. And people want to stay in their homes and communities. So what this means is, altogether, we have a gap that we need to fill. The idea that we need to have homes and communities that support people, that allow them to thrive as they age. And that is where age-friendly and livable communities come in. On this next slide, we have a definition, ARP's official definition of a livable community. I'll just quickly go through it. It says that a livable community is safe and secure, it has affordable housing and transportation options, and offers supportive community features and services. And once in place, those resources enhance personal independence, allow residents to age in place, and foster engagement in the community's civic, economic, and social life. So breaking that down, the idea is that a livable community, a livable age-friendly community, will have first be safe and secure. It will have the housing and transportation options so that people can choose where they live, someplace they can afford, someplace that meets their needs, and be able to get around. And other services in the community that help them kind of stay and thrive there, so that they can have the independence that people want, so that they can be stay as long as they want, which most people want to do, and so that they can be engaged in their communities as they're aging. So the idea is that if we're creating age-friendly, livable communities, they should have the options for all. So, but one key way to do that is to increase affordable, accessible housing options, which I'll spend the bulk of the rest of my time talking about here for you. And so very quickly, there are three elements of change for any policy involving communities. And the idea is first, there's policy change. The idea we need to make sure that the laws support the kinds of things that people need, the options that folks need. But that's not it. The second link is that industry needs to play a role here. I spent a lot of time, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to home builders out in Nevada about what they could do to make homes that support more aging. We need the industry to do what they can. And frankly, when I talk to many of them, what I hear is, well, we also need the people. We need people to hear and understand and request and ask for the things that they're needing as they're aging. Many of us have what one disability advocate called the Peter Pan problem, that we don't think we're ever going to grow up. Fortunately or fortunately, we all do. And so aging is what we need to think about, accommodate, and think about our future as individuals. And so much of what we do at ARP is frankly in all three of those pieces, but to the people piece, really helping people to understand, well, here's what might happen in your future. Things might not always be like how they are today. So when you're purchasing a home, think about the fact that you might not be able to get up the stairs in a few years. Well, what would that look like for you? When you choose a location, what happens if you're no longer able to drive, like our friend over here? How might your future look for the choices you're making? So we really need all those three pieces. We need policymakers to understand that and request the policies that we need. We need industry to do their role, and we as individuals need to help support that. On the next slide, I'll just quickly talk about some of the reasons why housing options are so important. So here's some examples. We have co-housing, we have multi-generational housing, home sharing, home with supportive services. And all of these are options that we can create that really, other than a single family home, that's a standard home in over 80% of neighborhoods in the country. All we have are single family homes. These are some of the options that we need in every community so that people can really do what they want. Home sharing takes a standard single family home and makes it something different, something that you can have perhaps a caregiver or just a roommate that helps you share expenses and the like. We can have multi-generational housing. And speaking of housing supportive services, somebody mentioned that we've got folks from Culpeper Gardens on the call here. I saw a note the other day that the $2 million federal grant went to Culpeper Gardens, so congratulations to those folks there. And it's important that we have properties and buildings like that in every community that can support folks as they're aging. And more on the next slide, just some types of housing that we used to have a lot of in this country that we no longer have. These are sometimes called middle housing, but options other than a single family home or a large apartment building, something in between. And you'll just see some options here on the way we can create flexibility in our community to build some things that are different and might provide different options that might be more affordable than a single family home, or options that may have more accessibility as well. And on the next slide, I mentioned accessory dwelling units, the idea of building homes on a single family property, building an apartment, whether attached to a home or detached. You'll see some examples of the way that works. But to me, this is one of my favorite housing policies because I call it the Swiss Army approach of housing. The idea that we can take an existing single family home and you can add a unit in the back, perhaps for a caregiver if you need help in your home. Maybe you've got too many stairs and you need to have a place where you can stay on one level and you can build that in your backyard, or maybe you need to rent it out, or maybe you're the person who needs to rent a unit in a community that you can't afford to be in otherwise. So there's many ways that we can do this and make more options in communities that already exist. And what's fascinating to me is on this next slide, you'll see that 62% of people would consider building an ADU on their property to provide a place for one who needs care. So it's something we don't have in the vast majority of neighborhoods in the country, but when you explain it to people, when they understand this option, many people would like to build one. And on this slide, you can see some of the options to do that. And the last option I want to talk about is this one, creating ageless homes. The idea of taking universal design. And the universal design is an approach to building things, in this case, housing, so that people can use it regardless of ability, kind of thing, that without need to especially adapt or to someone's specific circumstances. So the concept of bringing universal design to everything we do, that when we're building a home, when we're thinking about a community, when we're thinking about our transportation network, how can everyone in the community, everyone in the household use this, thrive in this place? That is really the goal here I want to get to, and it should really be something that infiltrates our thinking to the core. So what I want to do is I want to wrap with just a couple of ARP resources that you should know about and that may be helpful in your work. First is our Future of Housing website, where we talk, this is what I use to our fundamental core when I talk to some of those folks in the housing industry. Here's why it's so important to think about housing as we're aging. And this is arp.org/future of housing. And there are many trends you can see in here, things technology to affordability to our demographics to several others. But our world is changing. We're not building the kind of things that we need to adapt to that. And this is one way that we get that out to those industry folks and others who need to see and hear that. The next thing I want to talk about is our ARP Livability Index. And I note that helpfully on the back of your agenda, you'll see some livability index scores for Arlington right here. And here's, first of all, here's what the website is, arp.org/livability index. And my team and I created this 2015 as the world's first nationwide neighborhood-based index, livability index. And the idea is we wanted to measure every neighborhood in the country and then every community in the country to see how livable they are. Now, I mentioned what our definition was, but what does that actually mean? Well, we put an index together with 61 different indicators. It's got 40 metrics and 21 public policies in it to say, well, here are the things we need on the ground, and here are the policies that can do that. So on the next slide, you'll see overarching view of what it looks like if you looked at Arlington on the index. You'll see the overall score from 0 to 100. A score of 50 is average. So there's no community that really scores higher than the low 70s because every community has trade-offs. A place that might have lots of things nearby that you want to go to and visit might be very expensive, or there might not be transportation options, or there may be high crime. There's many things that could be trade-offs in a community. And as your program shows and the survey showed as well, housing affordability is a huge challenge here. So it's one of the areas that's under 50 for this community. And you'll see other areas in which the community does well in. And so the idea is you can go to the index at any point in time. And not only can you look at the community level, but you can look at a different zip code or a different part of town to understand, where are the challenges for this neighborhood or that neighborhood. And I encourage all of you to do that and really take a deeper understanding, perhaps your own community, perhaps the gaps in the community, or things that you might want to advocate for. And that's why we also include in there some of these public policies that can help improve communities as well. And another a tool that I want to tell you about is our long-term services and support scorecard. You'll see here, just very quickly, a sneak preview of what that is. It's at arp.org/LTSS choices. Now, this is a measure of the long-term care system in every state. So there's a state-by-state scorecard that we've been doing every 3 years since 2011, looking at the different facets of long-term care in every community. And just quickly, if you go to the next one, you'll see that one of the things we measure there is affordability and access of care in Virginia. And you'll see that while Virginia does relatively well overall, home care cost is high, and it's still 70% of the median income for people that are 65 and older are spent on home care. So, when we think about the dynamics here, perhaps what are the options we can do to bring care to folks who need it? What can we do to make our communities more inexpensive overall? What can we do to provide care in the ways that need to be done? These are all things that are crucially important. And the last ARP thing I wanted to talk to you about, which I hope everyone's familiar with, is the ARP network of age-friendly states and communities. Now, I've been with ARP since 2008, and when we got this network stood up, we had maybe a dozen or so communities that were involved. And today we have over 845 communities here. I see from the program that Arlington was at 250th. And I'll be honest, one thing that really excites me is not just the number of communities in our program, but communities like this one that have been through one cycle, the cycle of investigating the problems in your community, developing a plan to execute against those challenges that community members are facing, but then reassessing at that 5-year point and then developing a new plan. Where are we today? What have we been able to accomplish? What gaps do we still have? And it's not, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not that we are a failure for not achieving all the goals of the last 5 years. I'll give you a hint that none of the plans that I've ever seen do that. But that's okay. We're supposed to be aspirational, and we're supposed to think about, well, what are all the things we can do to help move this community forward? And now where we are, what are our priorities today and tomorrow, and looking into that future? And so I'm very thankful for everyone that's in here that's committed themselves to being part of that process, to looking at our community and thinking about what we can do into the future. I mean, for me, this next slide talks about one of my favorite thoughts here, that there's big power in small changes. And the idea that incremental can be radical. We can take steps. We can get a bill passed here. We can build some more housing there. We can open up a transportation option there. We can take step-by-step changes to improve our community. And by and large, those are the changes that improve one person, one neighborhood, one community, and build from there. So I want us to be inspired by the ability to make small changes that get to great impact. And at ARP, on this last slide, you'll see that we call ourselves everyday innovators in aging. And the idea is that we want to do the things every day that can help innovate and create things that help communities. You'll see many of our community publications on the table over to my left. But that's what we're doing every day. And I think each of you in all of your roles can do something every day as well. Some of us have formal roles with local government or boards or the like that we can be part of. Some of us are just our community members that are engaged and want things better. We know what our challenges are in our community and what we can do to improve them. And all of us have a part in that, and all of us can help innovate. So as you go through the rest of the day, I want to challenge you to be an everyday innovator in aging and think about what can we do to innovate and make our community better. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming and thank you all for your time.
Questions? Did you want to take a couple questions? Does anyone have questions?
Happy to take questions.
So thank you.
We got a microphone, that's perfect. Thank you so much for a great presentation. My question might be a little bit unorthodox. So it seems to have some amazing metrics and great data. Do you see also with ARP in helping the community a trend where you can leverage the AI, machine learning, predictive analytics, and that automation? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question. And frankly, we actually have a retreat this week to talk about just that topic because it's, there's so much power in technology to help in what we're doing. And I think one of the things that we're charged with, all of us is thinking about how the things that we do and incorporate can lead to more things as technology helps us to do that. So I'm really interested in the kinds of things that AI can do to help basically take lessons, like perhaps we can find a way to take the lessons from some of these age-friendly plans in some way that helps communities with all of the learning that, I can't read all these plans anymore. I used to read all of them. I tell you, I've not read all 845. But there's 12, I've read all 12. But so a computer can do that. A computer can grab all that in 30 seconds and create some really interesting dynamics. So I'm really excited about the idea of being able to take some of this information. We have thousands of communities across the country. Somewhere somebody has dealt with the issue or the challenge that you have, and being able to bring that to folks' mind. That's what I'm thinking about for this retreat we're having. And I just think there's so much potential, and we should all be thinking about this and ways to leverage it for positive.
We use the metrics of the livability thing that's available on the website. It identified that Arlington is among the best communities in the country
Yeah.
in many of those metrics. But it also identified where we could make some improvements. Identifying in your mind and sharing with us those specific things that we don't excel at. Because this county is kind of dedicated to being the very best in all of the areas. So your input will be critical.
Thank you for that. Arlington is always one of our top scoring communities, but even here, as we talked about, challenges certainly exist. So that's a very important point. Thank you for that.
Can we look at your first slide, sir? I wanted to see the number of people and age.
So we'll send a copy out of we'll send a copy of the slides, if that's okay with you, out to everyone who registered. So you'll get a copy afterwards so you can look at it, okay?
But I have a comment to make on the first slide. That's the reason. Okay,
Okay,
that's okay.
okay.
Good morning. I'm a citizen, but I'm also a commissioner here on the Disability Advisory Committee. Could you please point us to resources in the work that AARP is doing around this?
I don't think that mic is working.
So, yeah, she asked about assistive technology. It's a short version of her question. And we do, I don't have the link memorized, but, and I'll get it through, Helen, that we just did a report on assistive technology last, fall or so. And assistive technology, including AI, there's so much, going on, there as well. So we'll make sure to get that to folks.
Any other? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Herman.
It's great to be here and see so many of you. Does anyone want to take a stretch break? Just, a minute to,
Well, after you're done, we're gonna have a break, so.
yeah, just in terms of if you want to stretch, that's great. But to introduce myself, I'm Kathleen Cameron, and I'm honored to serve as vice chair for the Commission on Aging. And I also serve as the co-chair for the Age-Friendly Arlington Task Force with Cynthia Davis, who unfortunately could not be with us today because she's traveling around the world. So I'm really, really excited to be following Rodney, who I've known for several years, to discuss what's actually happening here in Arlington in a little bit more detail. I live in Arlington, we all live in Arlington. We want to make sure that Arlington is the best place possible for all of us to age with dignity. So, the Age-Friendly Arlington really came about because the Arlington Commission on Aging, which is a volunteer advisory committee of the county, we many years ago decided that we were going to start adopting this. And many of the members of the commission who worked in the early days in putting this plan together with us today, where they're joining remotely. So we can go to the next slide. And as Rodney pointed out, as a nation, we are getting older, and the same is true here in Arlington. This is a slide from the University of Virginia that Helen also shared that shows where we are in terms of the 60+ population. And we're showing 60+ because that is the population in which the Arlington AAA, the Agency on Aging, serves under the Older Americans Act. And it's really interesting because, as Rodney pointed out, the population is growing. It's also very diverse. And starting next year, Generation X will be turning 60 years of age. So we're, as a community, going to be serving several generations. We have a few folks still left from the greatest generation, the silent generation, those of us who are baby boomers, and next year, Generation X. So in addition to the racial diversity, we also have diversity of needs, expectations, desires in what our community looks like and how we serve older adults. So we can go to the next slide. And I think Rodney covered this, as background, the concept of age-friendly or livable community actually started with the World Health Organization and then was adopted by AARP. And we're so thankful that AARP is leading this charge across the country. And so AARP has the infrastructure, lots of resources to help communities like ours build the age-friendly community that we all want. So we've been able to really take advantage of all the great resources that AARP has. And we've been using those throughout the development of the current plan and the previous plan. So we can go to the next slide. And when a community develops their age-friendly plan, they're really looking across 8 broad domains of livability. And they're here on this slide. So it includes outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, respect and social isolation, social participation, civic engagement, communication and information, sharing information across the county about services that are available, making sure we have the right supports in the community, as well as supports related to our health. And then certainly in our county, housing is a key part of it. We can go to the next slide. And Rodney's already talked about the livability index and where we stand here in Arlington County, where we're actually doing pretty well. It's a very solid score here in Arlington County. Interestingly, it's about the same as Alexandria as well. But if we dig down, a little bit further into our score, as Rodney pointed out, affordable housing is what kind of brings us down. And the other piece is around inclusion and possibilities. So making sure we have opportunities for older adults throughout our county, no matter where they live, to participate. Which is so important, particularly as Rodney talked about in terms of reducing social isolation and loneliness among older adults. So, all right. So on this slide, it really talks about why an age-friendly community is good for all of us. It's not just for those 60 plus, but it really improves the county as a whole. We're going to talk about some ways in which that happened over the last 5 years. A great place for everyone who needs public services, uses neighborhood businesses, accesses neighborhood spaces. And an age-friendly community also recognizes the contributions of the older population. And that's a population that certainly spends money throughout the county, drives the development of new products, provides workers. Yes, many over the age of 60 are still employed, and helps to care for others. So for all of these reasons, age-friendly is good for all of us. So on the next slide, you'll see the first plan. So you'll all get a copy of these slides and you can actually access this link and see the first plan that was developed that covered the period of 2018 through 2023. So this plan goes into great detail about the core areas in which the county decided to focus on. So this plan was developed by the Commission on Aging. It was approved by the county board and is really, now the strategic plan, or has been the strategic plan for the Commission on Aging. So on this slide, it kind of provides the time frame in which the cycle took place. So it took about 2 years for the plan to be developed. And that was in 2020 when it was approved by the board and AARP. There were 3 years of implementation, and that included the pandemic. So that kind of upended things and what the plan was actually able to accomplish. But I think there was a lot of flexibility and pivoting to figure out what could be done during those years. And then in 2023, the last year of the plan, the final report for all of the accomplishments was submitted to AARP. And last year was also when we started to develop the new plan, which we hope to finalize this year. So, and we hope to get your input today on that plan. So this is actually the 5-year evaluation plan that you can also access through the county board website. And the plan describes the many accomplishments of the age-friendly Arlington over this 5-year period, again, despite the pandemic. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes highlighting some of the accomplishments over that 5-year period of this first plan. And as I mentioned, we go to the next slide. It really served as the strategic plan for the Commission on Aging. So, and we talk about it at every monthly meeting in terms of where we are making progress on the plan. And I loved what Rodney said about, you know, the big power of small changes, because I think the plan really exemplifies that for sure. So we can go to the next slide. So the first area for the plan was housing. As we just said, that was a key part of it because we recognize that affordable housing and accessible housing is an issue throughout the county. So these were a couple of the accomplishments. One was advocacy on missing middle study and advocacy around affordable housing master plan for the county to make sure the needs of older adults are addressed in that master plan. In addition, the Housing Committee also created a draft universal design checklist, and that was presented to Arlington's Planning Commission with discussion on how this checklist could actually be used to support awareness to builders and developers as they continue to develop housing across the county. So those were two really, really important accomplishments of the Housing Committee. The age-friendly plan also aims to develop more affordable assisted living, and we can go to the next slide. And here you will see the beautiful and wonderful Culpeper Garden, which has 73 affordable assisted living units. And there are also affordable assisted living units at Mary Marshall. But we know there's huge waiting lists at Culpeper Garden, and we need much more affordable assisted living throughout the county. So advocacy will continue around affordable assisted living, including working with those who are building market rate projects. So it's a difficult goal, but a really important one to ensure that that we can all age in place, including those who need assisted living level of care. All right, next slide is on transportation. That was another key area of the plan. And the Transportation Committee worked on senior-specific data collection, advocated and made recommendations to improve pedestrian safety, and worked to create a senior-centric Arlington map. So on the next slide, you'll see a photo from walkable streets. So one important transportation goal was to make our streets more walkable. So again, this is something that's not just for older adults, but it's for the entire community, as you will see with these very energetic scouts in this picture. So to this end, the Commission on Aging actually received an AARP community grant to put bright See Me flags for pedestrians to carry when they cross the streets at strategic locations in intersections across the county. Has anyone seen these flags? I see. Oh, great. Excellent. So that was.
They're not in Clarendon Courthouse and on the RV corridor.
Okay, we'll definitely make note of that. Yeah. So this initiative of the transportation was not actually in the original plan, but it came through discussion of what might be done with the grant. And it is fully in keeping with the age-friendly plan. And again, making the county livable and safe for people of all ages. So we can go to the next slide. The next is work that has been done around increasing participation and inclusion of older adults throughout the committee. And certainly this forum today is an example of that, where you can all provide input as we develop the next plan for age friendly. In addition, on the next slide, one really amazing effort is called the Walking School Bus. And this was through advocacy of a commission member, Andrea Walker. I don't think she's here today, created the Walking School Bus. And what it is older volunteers are organized to walk children to school. So it's a great way for, it helps the parents perhaps. It's intergenerational. It's a win-win for everybody. Older adults get some physical activity by walking. So that's continuing. It's actually won awards and it's being replicated in other parts of the country. So again, and a great example of how the plan has been able to help more than just older adults, but helps families and children. All right, next slide. All right, community health and support. The first is around the Commission on Aging's Committee on Long-Term Care Residencies. And right now, all of them, all the nursing homes and assisted living residences have a liaison from the Commission on Aging to kind of know what's going on and contribute to the work of those long-term care residencies. And next, the next slide. Are all of you aware of the senior pop-up markets? No, okay. Well, we recognized through the plan that food security and food quality is very, very important to the health of older adults in Arlington. And one key area of health support is certainly community involvement. And one program that Arlington has is the federally funded Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. And it offers fresh fruits and vegetables from local farmers at markets and roadside stands at reduced rates for older adults with limited incomes. But the problem that was recognized is how do we get the older adults to those markets? So it was decided that we're actually going to bring the markets to where older adults are. And Arlington created these pop-up farmers markets at several independent living residences for older adults. And they've been very, very popular. So I think there's one. Do some of you go to them, hopefully, or have during the season? Oh,
The independent.
Culpeper Garden, yeah. Yeah, so it's, stay tuned for more information about that. All right, you can go to the next slide. All right, communication. So that again is to make sure that older adults throughout the county have the information they need to get to services, perhaps transportation, et cetera. And Helen has already talked about the Community Ambassador program, which is a great partnership, and there's information about that here. So that's been one accomplishment. Also, again, the Community Engagement Forum, like today, those have been going on for several years. So another way to engage older adults. So that was just a kind of a very quick overview of some of the accomplishments of the 5-year plan that ended last year. So we're in the middle of developing our next plan because we don't want to end it. So we'll go to the next slide. Next one. And on these slides, I've kind of just summarized where we are in terms of the goals and objectives with the current plan. I'm not going to go into great detail because we want to hear from you. We're still building those goals and objectives and tasks and what we want to do over the next 5 years. But we are going to focus on similar areas: housing, transportation, long-term care. There's a new committee called Aging, Equity, and Engagement. And then we've also started a new committee specifically on health and wellness that will include long-term care, but we want to look at other areas that are so important to the life of older adults, like mental health, dental care, coordinating services across health and community, and then maybe even having some of our healthcare providers adopting an age-friendly healthcare system approach that will complement our age-friendly community plan. So just wanted to share that. You can read more about some of these, some of our plans. Again, not final yet, but we're going to continue to work on them over the next month or so, and look forward to your input today. So I hope that's been helpful to kind of lay the foundation for the discussions that will take place during the breakout sections today. So I think we're going to break now. And so I am been instructed to provide information on where you go from here. So, there's 3 different rooms in which we're all going to, go to. Please check out your name badge. If you have a blue name badge, you're actually gonna stay in this room, which is the oak room. So, okay, anyone who has a blue badge, please stay in this room. Anyone with a red or an orange badge, you're gonna go across the hall to the Magnolia Room. Okay, and then finally, yellow, you're gonna be in the Hickory Room. And that's, yeah, the Hickory Room. Helen, where is the Hickory
The
Room?
break room is right next door here.
Okay.
We're gonna,
Right
that
next door.
divided up, yeah.
Okay, it's gonna be right over here. Does anyone have an orange? If you have orange, please go to the Magnolia Room with the red. So thank you all very much and, enjoy your discussions during the breakouts.
Challenge by the time you